All right, everyone, let's get the show started. Welcome back. It's January 4th, 2023. My name is Eric Osterman, and I'll be leading the conversation. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse is a DevOps accelerator. We help companies conquer AWS using our proven blueprints for Terraform. If you're starting from scratch or just not happy with what you got today, then you need to go to cloudposse.com/quiz and book a session with me. I'll show you exactly what your future can look like. And best of all, you can have it today. So for those of you new to the call, the format's very informal. My goal is to get your questions answered. If you're curious about Cloud Posse or any of our open source tools and modules, this is a great place to ask. If you're tuning in from our podcast or YouTube channel, you can register for these live and interactive sessions by going to cloudposse.com/officehours. We host these calls every week. Our call today is recorded. We'll automatically post a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. So if you enjoy the content and want to support what we do over here, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. It helps us out a great deal. Just go to youtube.com/cloudposse. Again, youtube.com/cloudposse. So with that said, let's jump into some very light announcements. I don't know about you guys, but it was a slow news week for me. I didn't find that much exciting. The one thing I found digging through our Terraform channel was something Lauren shared, which is Google has published a pretty extensive write-up of their recommended best practices for Terraform. I haven't had a chance to dig too deeply into it, but it looked reasonable, a lot of the recommendations that I saw. So that's pretty bold. That's pretty nice that they came out and did that. All right. Any comments on this one? Has anyone taken a look at this one already before? All right. Next announcement is an experimental GitHub action for Docker Bake. To be honest, Docker Bake was new to me, I guess because it's still relatively experimental. Docker Bake is a way of parallelizing complex builds of multiple images or layers in parallel for Docker. This is a GitHub action, so you can leverage the buildx action, the buildx subcommand of Docker together with that. What's also really interesting is that you can define your bake files in HCL. Now, this is obviously not Terraform, but it's using the same language as Terraform. So it's a pretty intuitive way of defining those layers. That's it for announcements. Anybody have something they can share? I didn't see anything that exciting at AWS. Reddit was pretty boring. Awesome Terraform, nothing there. Anton's newsletter didn't publish. So, still a New Year's hangover.
What a start to the new year.
I know, right? Well, let's face it, the last thing we need is another tool like a hole in our head. So thank you for coming together and starting this year off fresh with not 15 new tools that we got to figure out whether to hold, assess, or discard on our technology radar.
I have a tool for you, but I guess we'll leave it for next session.
Yeah, we don't want to disrupt the flow. No, go for it, Ralph. What's the tool?
I'm trying to find the example, so if somebody could go first, because I want to have it open when I.
Oh, okay.
When I show it, this tool does have a bit of a problem in keeping its state in a web browser.
Let's see here. There was something in the Office Hours channel I was pulling up here by Sean Turner. Are you on the call today?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Let me open up your message in my browser here so everyone can see it. All right. So sorry, Sean, I guess I missed it when you posted it a few weeks ago. Thanks for reposting. Your question is, what are some good ways to update an application in Argo with the new image tag? Some options are image updater sounds great, and it's on the roadmap to be added to Argo CD, event bridge, watching Docker pushes with triggering Lambda container, with a Git library doing the replacement of values.yaml, CI mechanism building images, does the replacement values.yamls, makes a commit, and so forth. So yeah, so here's my thing. It's like there's a lot of systems out there that are based on this concept of just like when a new image tag is available, auto deploy, or watching some Docker registry auto deploy that image. To me, that doesn't really make sense. An image is coupled with the manifests that deploy it. The manifest needs to be somewhat versioned with the images. The exception to that, if you're a small engineering organization and everyone knows to update that, and you can communicate with your team when those updates should happen. But if you're working in any larger team environment, making sure that the manifest is updated when the image updates when it needs to update is going to be a tough thing to coordinate. So every time we've implemented Argo CD, we've also implemented some GitHub Actions. Actually, our GitHub Actions for this are being overhauled right now and being open source. I would share them right now, except for they haven't been documented yet and they're not ready for mass consumption, but they're coming. But our approach to this is we render the manifest. In our case, like if we're using Helm, we generate the all the YAML manifests, commit those, and that triggers the deployment, of course. Now, when we render those YAML manifests, that has the image in there, and we're redeploying everything. So what I'd like to understand is like so this is what we've been doing, and it makes sense to me because obviously this is what we've been doing. But there's many people that don't do it this way, and I struggle to just see it from the other side. So I'd like to, I'd like to hear the other story, or like why only update the image tag? Why not everything else?
When you say that you are rendering the manifest with Helms, you're doing like a Helm template command and basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't done a ton with Argo, and usually the people who are doing all the Argo stuff have it in place.
True.
In my mind, I think using a Helm chart makes sense because you can do like Helm chart composition if you need to. And you can also just inject the annotations. I think also maybe for someone who just is kind of like getting onboarded, it might be easier to see levers in terms of values.yaml. Now, of course, like the corollary to that would also be true where it's like Helm's an abstraction and then they'd have to like figure out the whole abstraction. But so I guess to answer your question, it's just always the way it's been set up for me. But I do think it makes decent sense doing it that way.
I think a good example of this is Jenkins. You've got different teams maintaining the Helm chart versus the image. The image gets updated very frequently with security vulnerabilities and stuff.
Can you clarify if you're saying deploying with using Jenkins, or
No, deploying Jenkins
as a service? You're talking about as an example.
Deploying Jenkins. Jenkins gets updated frequently when there are CVEs and stuff. The Helm chart doesn't get updated as frequently. So if you want to stay up on the image, but you're not updating the Helm chart all the time, then this is something I do now. I have Renovate set up that watches the Docker registry for new image releases and submits a PR. And it runs all my tests, because a PR automatically runs tests. And then at that point, I've got a PR, tests have passed or failed or whatever, and I'm able to go, okay, am I good with this? Approve, merge, Argo kicks off. That's it.
You said that was called Renovate, that tool?
Yeah.
It's like Dependabot for GitHub.
Huh.
Except you can run Renovate yourself, and you can run whatever custom scripts you want if you want to. You can also run Renovate as a SaaS through GitHub, but you can run it yourself if you want to.
One question here. Have you thought about using like creating your own base images and have a scheduled task to automatically update them?
Well, let's get back to the, but that's the question is not dependency management. The question is updating the image tag for like a custom application. What is the way you do that when you're using Argo CD? And you know, as he presented a few options that are common here. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's more like along the lines of what Andrew Roth was talking about with Renovate Bot, which is knowing when there's a new version available and opening a PR for that.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
That could be related because I mean, if whatever builds the image then like posts something to the Renovate endpoint or whatever, I don't know how it works.
Okay, I take that back. I take it back.
No, that's like that seems like a pretty clean way to do it.
Well, because it'll watch for new releases. So you can tell it to watch a Git repo for new tags. You can tell it to watch a Docker registry for new releases. And what Argo's all it's doing is watching a Git repo.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds a lot like the image updater.
So you can do this. And on the one side, I think it's a really elegant solution as proposed. On the other, from our experience, I don't think it's gonna check off all the marks. From our experience, one of the things we want to do is like when you open a pull request in the app that you're building, you want to see a preview environment of that. You want to load that somewhere. And if there has to be always another pull request, another thing that needs to trigger to open the pull request to bump the image, that's not going to work. This would be fine as a release promotion strategy, but you'd still need to implement something separately if you wanted to have like ephemeral environments.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, what I was talking about it is apt for, you know, you're just the consumer of something. You're not the creator of it. Yeah. You know, and the creators of it created a new version and you're consuming it. That I agree that that's a different take on
I think that's a good strategy, like for all your operators that you deploy in Kubernetes, having something monitor that'd be pretty cool. Basically, if you have a ALB controller, Carpenter, Reloader, etc. in your cluster, and then you had this other system, Renovate Bot, opening PRs against your Argo CD deployment repo when it sees there's a new version of that, so you know when you're going behind. That sounds pretty badass.
Yeah, you could like hook it up to a GitHub Action as well. Because the way we have our Argo set up is that we've got a staging cluster in one branch and we've got a production cluster in another branch. And so you could have kind of like a GitHub Action pipeline or something like that that has a promotion step and maybe like sends a Slack message for the, you know, the auto approval page or whatever. Not auto approval, the approval page.
And is that a surfboard behind you, or what is that?
Yeah, it's a surfboard. Okay,
it's a pretty tall surfboard.
9 feet.
9 feet. Wow.
Okay. And then Eric, when you say that you have your GitHub action that is doing the Helm template and committing the kube YAML, what is that doing? Is that just basic like get config bash commands or something like that?
Yeah, let's see what's been published so far. Most of our implementations have been private, but now we're doing, Cloud Posse is basically doing for GitHub Actions what we've done for Terraform. So we're going out and ripping out all these things that we've done for customers and starting to open source the actions. But this is an old thing. Ignore this. This is not the one we're working on. So we might not have gotten to that step of the process of open sourcing it yet, so it's not ready. But yeah, it is essentially generating the, from recollection, it works something like this. A repository, your app repo would have a deployment folder named whatever you want. In that deployment folder, you have a values file for every environment, and then you have a default values file. And then what we do is we call the Helm template command, and we pass it the path to the default YAML file, which would be the default values, and then your environment YAML file, and then Helm itself will deep merge that, and then generate the manifest. I see your hand there, Ralph. I'll get to that in 1 second. And then the output of that, we just commit to the Argo CD deployment repo. In our case, we have a separate repository representing the state of the Kubernetes cluster. That repository is broken down into folders, one folder per namespace, and then a file in there per. Actually, so sometimes we've done a few different models where we have a shared deployment repository, and then there'll be one folder per cluster, and then inside that folder there'll be one folder per namespace, and then one file per manifest that was generated. All right, Ralph.
So the reason I had my hand up is because I was trying to lower it. So when I put my hand up for
you're trying to the Zoom.
There's a counter, and then it puts up a hand over there, right?
Yeah.
So the second time you saw me put my hand up, I was actually trying to see if
lower
there was a gesture to take it down. But
that's funny.
If you let me share my screen, I do have something to show.
Oh, hold on. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to make sure we close out with you, Sean Turner, before we change topic entirely. Any more questions on that before we continue?
No, I was just going to say I shared a proposal in that question thread about image updater going into Argo CD's code base, because I mean, that seems like it would perfectly solve the problem, because it does the get committing piece, and it also does what the renovate solution would do, because it basically just watches ECR repos or whatever you've got. But yeah, that's it for that. Thanks for the help.
Okay. Yeah.
Is the image updater gonna just automatically deploy new images as they come out?
I've never used it, but I don't know. I think it would do a commit, and then maybe your YAML manifest, if you're using rollouts or something like that, you would want to implement stop gates or manual approvals or something like that. Perhaps it's configurable though.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting to me because I mean, Flux is known for being bidirectional somewhat, also updating the deployment repository. Argo, I thought, never modified the deployment repository and only read from it. So I think this is interesting if this is actually going to be committing back to the repository such that a change gets deployed. That I didn't know that was a pattern Argo CD was starting to adopt.
Well, I mean, this was November, so there hasn't really been all that much work on it. So who knows if it actually gets approved? True.
I thought it is being merged, so it looks like it's going.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess, yeah, I think you're right.
And then my question is just, well, is this just the only one case that I know about that you brought to my attention, or are there other places Argo CD has started to do this? And I just want to make sure that I'm current on my Argo CD understandings. So yeah, do follow up if you learn anything more about this. Yeah, and also what you decide to do. I'd like to know.
Yeah. I think it's going to be some combination of simple git bash commands, and then maybe an empty values file for just the tags, so you don't have to mess around with sed or anything like that. Just echo it out into the file, and then
don't use sed.
No sed.
Yeah.
But I just thought of that right now. I haven't really put any thought into it yet because I just haven't had the time.
Yeah. There are also lots of great tools like YQ for manipulating YAML if you need to.
Yeah. You have to have YQ on whatever's running, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, you're up, Ralph. What did you want to show? Should I stop sharing my screen?
Yes, if you please. I will share a window. Let's see. So I'm pretty sure you guys all heard about this thing. It's called ChatGPT 3 from OpenAI.
Yep.
So I started out with a very useless question like, can you help me play SimCity? And then I heard about Colossus, and it explained to me what that is. And then I went to a clubhouse, a Python clubhouse, and they were talking about using it as a programming aid. So I asked for a very simple Pac-Man. And here it is. Then I asked for a maze, and it gave me a maze, but the variables didn't match the variables from the Pac-Man that it gave me. So I had to do some manual massaging and, search and replace to actually get something that worked. And then I went on to other things, what the heck is quantum computing? But I came back to this programming idea, can you help me write code? And by the way, I haven't used GitHub, whatever it's called.
Copilot. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Copilot.
Copilot, thank you. I haven't used that yet, so that is something else I'm looking forward to trying out. $10 a month, but anyway, there's an open source one that has a free demo that I'm probably going to try first. And I kept going on, what can you answer? What can't you answer? I come back to Python-y things, but the one that I wanted to show here is it occurred to me I could ask it to write me a MySQL database cluster for AWS in Terraform. And this came after assembler. I also asked for a Pac-Man in assembler, which was delivered. I only tested the one in Python. I did not test the one in assembler. I haven't tested this code either, but there's things missing. But
did you see the command that Anton Babenko posted? Somebody's already written a little GoCli that will generate infrastructure as code by hitting the ChatGPT APIs. So you can use it to generate like your Terraform modules and stuff like that. I'll see if I can dig it up.
He is obviously way ahead of me then.
No, this is a great topic. I mean, I love ChatGPT. We talked about it a little bit last week and before, but yeah, it is amazing. Has anybody on this chat, on this office hours, not yet tried GPT or is skeptical about it? I'd love to work to understand why.
Or is afraid that it's going to steal your job in a couple of years.
I haven't used it, but I've seen all the memes and stuff, so I get it. I just haven't, gone to the website.
It's so phenomenal. It's like I had no idea that AI was this far along and so versatile. All those examples that Ralph brought up, and I've used it for other things that I consider more esoteric, like home automation, writing YAML configs for home automation, and it's been solving those for me. So it's just like I haven't found something it hasn't been able to answer for my problems yet.
So I now try to go to ChatGPT first before Google.
Yeah.
Because I want to play with it. It has some annoying quirks, like if you leave it open for too long, you have to refresh it. It doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. But other than that, it seems pretty, dare I say, intelligent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that deep link that I gave you takes you anywhere, but that is the AWS Terraform example. I don't know that you can share these with other people, right? Because I gave you a deep link to my chat. Perhaps it opens the same one, perhaps not. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Let me see what happens for me. But I just shared in the sweetops Slack for office hours. Yeah, it doesn't work. I think it's just tied to your
it needs my login, I guess.
Yeah, but what you can do is you share the prompt that you use, and then anybody who enters that prompt can get these.
But it's a whole conversation, and sharing the prompt would.
Oh, okay. Well, you can combine the conversation into a prompt.
It's a conversation as I tell it to refine the the code that it's giving me.
Yeah.
There is an API for it, and I've been very tempted to try to connect it to Google Home.
Oh, Harold, thanks for sharing the link. I didn't see you shared that already.
Anyway, that's all I had. You can take
Yeah,
this
thanks for
back.
bringing that up. Yeah. ChatGPT is certainly awesome.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. There are some of my prompts that I've done.
I asked the CEO if he was going to replace me with ChatGPT, and he said no.
Oops, sharing the wrong window.
At least not with ChatGPT 3 or 4.
I think that that's sometimes joked around as being the problem, but honestly, all that happens is just we become we operate just at higher orders of abstraction.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine what your productivity would be like without Google?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to eliminate toil, but you're not paid what you're paid because of toil. Yeah. It's the new innovative things that it won't be able to do. That's where our skill is.
I think to a large extent, we are all able now to work on a wider variety of languages because of Google and because of all the things that it finds us. Substack and I don't know, all these other places where people are answering questions.
I think that this kind of combines the toil of searching Google with the usefulness of Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange sites, and just gives you exactly what you want, interpreted for your context and any other constraints you place on it. I think Google's going to have to quickly unleash whatever lab they have in the back end that they've been working on this and been dragging their feet on. That project just got expedited because I think this is a systemic. I think this is an existential threat for Google.
The explanation that I heard on CNBC as to why that is not happening is that despite Google having it, it doesn't benefit them because they're selling advertising.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so I think that's a good assessment of the situation and why they might not expedite the release of it. I don't think it reduces the existentialism threat.
No, but they can delay it till next year.
No, they can delay it. Yeah, they can certainly delay this until they figure out how to monetize it.
They're not. ChatGPT. I don't know what percentage of the population it's permeated into yet. I know it's.
This is exceptionally small. I mean, this is, but so was Google in the beginning, right? It was a small little underdog from Stanford, and Yahoo just scoffed at it, and we know how that story ended.
I remember winning a contest in Nice, France, on the radio. I don't know. They asked some question on the radio, and I went to the internet and found the answer. I don't think I went to Google. It didn't exist. And they asked me, how did you know? And I said, the internet. I got 2 plane tickets. Either way.
No way. That's fine. Michael Jenkins, I saw you had your hand up a second ago. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about Google and ads. Basically, I mean, Google, they don't want to distill the best answer for your query because they want to display all of these sponsored links. They want to display ads in the sidebar. They want you to maybe, if you're crazy like me, even browse to the second page of results because then they could display more ads and more sponsored links or whatever the case is. So I think kind of like how Ralph has already said, the downfall for Google delivering like the distilled best single answer for anybody's query is that it minimizes their ability to display ads. But that is a sponsorship opportunity, because if you're going to give me millions of dollars to display your site as the one single search result over everybody else's, then yeah, I'll do it. So I think it kind of depends on how they want to monetize the ability to display one single search result, or maybe the best 3, or whatever the case is.
But I hear what both you and Ralph are saying, and I get it from the business angle why that would probably be the case. But I mean, I do this all the time these days with Google before ChatGPT, is that Google is frequently just summarizing and giving me the answer anyways at the top of results today. And doesn't that go against the argument that they wouldn't want to do that? And yet they are doing it already today, just
But they're
not
serving
doing it
you an
as
ad. So above,
But ChatGPT is not going to stay free. I mean, they're
Yeah, it's
going to
not.
monetize that. This is
it's already not free. I mean, if you want the API, you have to pay for it.
Well, yeah, that's great. I hope they're doing that. I want them to monetize it before it just gets exploited by spammers to death. And but I guess my point is that I guess if ChatGPT also threw some search results at the bottom, we'd have something similar to Google, just a whole lot better synopsis of the problem. And then you know, there's nothing saying ChatGPT on the free version can't have ads, contextual ads, and shit. Excuse my language. I mean. And plus, it has the advantage of knowing exactly what the person typed. So, hey, also show me the most relevant ad based on the context of what I'm asking.
The ad on ChatGPT is going to be embedded so deep inside the answer.
Maybe. I hope not. I hope they don't go that route.
Just like a sponsored podcast.
I hope they don't go that route. I really hope. I hope they keep it. You know.
I don't know. I just feel that the sponsors are going to provide training data.
That could be. That would corrupt it. But I mean, at the scale of data they need, I don't know.
I'm always thinking of, you know, how could they do the most evil thing possible with this technology?
Yeah, it's good to be skeptical.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of which, I listened to Putin's New Year's speech, 7 minutes long. In English, of course. It's scary.
Yeah. Did you ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you?
It doesn't do politics.
Really? It won't summarize. Like if you pasted that art, can you please summarize this text? And you pasted
Well,
it in.
It will do the translation. Oh, by the way, I did hear from somebody that it's very fluent in Chinese, and I spoke to it in Spanish, and it was very fluent.
I did not know that it was multilingual. I didn't know.
It is multilingual. I don't know what the linguals are, but you know, those two have been tested.
All right, back on point. Any other questions? DevOps associated release engineering, observability, Terraform, Kubernetes. You have it. Anybody have any questions we can answer today? We're pretty light.
I have a moral quandary.
Okay. Well, just since you just asked, hold on, let's see if somebody else has another question before we get into the moral quandary. Just opening the floor to anyone else who might have a question.
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Harold.
So I just want probably suggestions or ideas. So imagine I'm managing a VM for some people, maybe like EC2 instances, and then I want to probably like create like a dashboard for them to be able to SSH into those instances, right? Without using any of AWS provided ways to SSH. Imagine this is just a user that just need a beautified platform to SSH into an instance. What is the best way to do that? Right. I'm asking this in the context of SSHing to an instance from a browser. Those of IAP protocol that used to I'm hoping that is there a way that we can do it? Yeah. So I think that's sort of like the suggestion.
Yeah, I assume something open source that you're not going to pay for. And I assume SSH is actually not the requirement, but the experience you're looking for. So like a browser-based shell, it doesn't specifically have to be SSH. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't know the exact answer, but I know there's a bunch of open source tools out there that are used to stream a shell or a command. Makes it pretty easy to embed things like that into like modern TypeScript apps and things like that. So I don't know what it is, but I know that there are open source packages for that. Somebody else know the answer specifically of one of those packages? Yeah.
Okay. If anybody does, I will appreciate probably the link in the channels later, because the context to that is, in my company, we are trying to create a solution for our customers where they can access their service from just like a browser shell. Yeah.
Yeah. So like one thing, I mean, I'm using something called Home Assistant for home automation. It has that same kind of experience that I think you're looking for. You can look at what Home Assistant uses. So here's like Home Assistant. I can scroll down here on the side. I go to Terminal, and here I just have an interactive shell on that instance. So whatever Home Assistant uses, you can probably look into that package.
Thank you. That's helpful. I'll take a look into that. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a product called Backstage that I'm interested in looking more closely at that was pretty prevalent at the last KubeCon. It's more of a holistic, you know, be a one-stop shop for everything, all the documentation, you know, be a portal for the different apps in your company and everything else.
Yeah.
Might be something interesting.
I don't think it's a fit for specifically what
no, you'd have a
Harold,
plugin or something for
but generally Backstage seems really awesome. I know we have a few customers using it. We haven't integrated it yet into our delivery for customers, but it's something I would love to add at some point. I think it's pretty cool. Are you guys do you have it in your delivery, Andy, at Defense Unicorns?
No. I'm starting to look at it as so I work on you know what is best described as kind of a software factory in a box, you know, and it's deployable anywhere, including like air gaps and stuff. So that's pretty cool. But you know, it deploys all these different services, you know, GitLab and Mattermost and SonarQube, and you kind of have to keep track of all these different services. So I want something as, okay, just go here, and then it's the front door, and then everything, you know, disperses out from there.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, by the way, Harold, Roy posted in the Zoom chat some things. Browser stack, Terminus, SSH.net. Are you guys using a lot of Terraform, Andy? At Defense Unicorns, or using something else?
Terraform is still the de facto standard for the most part. We've spent quite a bit of time looking at crossplane, but yeah, Terraform's going to be still the main thing that we use for the foreseeable future.
And how are you guys predominantly automating your Terraform? Do you have any tooling around Terraform, or is it something in-house?
So we kind of have different use cases. We deal a lot with the, you know, the government and the DoD, and a lot of it is air-gapped environments.
Yeah.
So we are our main thing that we do is this product called Zarf that is like a packager. You know, it grabs little chunks of the internet and packages it into one package, and we're working on IAC for disconnected or limited connection environments where it will do things like wrap Terraform code and be able to do a full Terraform deployment without needing a connection back out to Terraform registry, or, you know, wherever they store the you know, the AWS provider, you know, stuff like that, because you get into these environments which still have AWS but don't have access to the internet. You know, based on, you know, firewall rules and stuff. So
that's interesting. So this Zarf tool is able, how do you create the initial packet? Can you run it in like an online mode where it just observes all the dependencies and everything downloaded? It fetches those, it creates a package, and then you can somehow install that offline without those online dependencies, or how does the Zarf tool work at a high level?
It's not quite as slick as that. I think you know, when I'm building a Zarf package, I write the zarf.yaml mostly manually. It will scrape manifests and Helm charts for the list of images that you need. And then you add that list of images to the package definition. And what it'll do when you create the package is it'll grab all the images, all the repos, everything that your deployment needs into one package that you can just take anywhere, and you don't need access to the internet anymore at that point. And then it does some other slick stuff, like it'll build out a full SBOM using Sift under the hood. And it'll output that. You can run it through Gripe. But we're basically trying to automate, you know, in the DoD world, one of the reasons why things are so slow to get updated is you basically have to provide, you know, all of your documentation on what all the versions are and everything every time you want to push an upgrade. And, you know, historically that's been very manual. You know, you'll see, you know, spreadsheets flying around with, this is all the stuff that's in our package or in our deployment, and we need you to approve these changes. And we're trying to just make all of that automatic through automation and attestation.
So I'm just curious, how different is that? So for instance, why couldn't you use, say, a Docker image? Like, what can you build a Docker image with all those dependencies? What's the difference that you guys provide?
Are you, you mean like an OCI artifact?
Yeah.
As just the kind of the packaging mechanism?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
Because once you have your image, you can store it on the local network and you know, somewhere, and then you don't need to access.
But it's not. It's deployments are more than just Docker images, right? They're manifests, and they're, you know, and they're usually multiple Docker images. But we are working on having the packages that get created as OCI artifacts, so that there can be a registry of them.
If anything, it sounds like, this Zarf is a tool that you could have as a build step inside of a Docker file that simplifies the process of assembling artifacts from all these different sources and puts it into one image. All right. Any other questions related to pretty much anything that we can try and help answer?
Not a question, or not a, has anyone ever done any crossplane? Because it seems like we might be able to get to a point soon where we can do just like calling your Terraform modules from like crossplane YAML. So then you could basically have like HCL to write your Terraform in, which is quite nice. And then you don't have to like do a bunch of weird, like, I don't know how, I've never done any crossplane, but the idea of like doing a bunch of infrastructure as code like that in YAML kind of sounds like CloudFormation again. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's come up a few times, probably not now for a month or so, but Matt Gowie in the community has been looking into crossplane, been doing some MVPs and things. He'd be a good person to hit up. He's also in the sweetops Slack. I haven't heard yet. We haven't had the pleasure yet of speaking to anybody on office hours using crossplane, you know, in a legit like production setting. The parts that I caution against with Terraform, like I want that more than anyone. One of the first things I looked into doing was like operators for Terraform in Kubernetes, right? How awesome would it be just to have a custom resource that defines what you need, bundle that in your Helm file, deploy it all together, bam, you know, problem solved. And The problem is that I don't know if it's a Terraform problem or a fundamental problem of just automated code, but Terraform sucks as the stability. The propensity for things to fail in Terraform is significant, and debugging it when it fails, when the deployment has gone asynchronously out through Kubernetes and looking through logs like that is not the best developer experience. So that's my concern with the crossplane, is that you're going to have all those same problems over again. I don't know what it does to improve that. If if when you deploy whatever that resource is for Terraform and crossplane, and you see exactly what those errors are, and then that's probably pretty acceptable. But what's the how's the developer doing that locally? Do they have crossplane installed locally and Docker, and is that going out to the cloud and provisioning all these things, and or do you have a development environment that developers are using, and then everything has to go through that? And you can't do any local development. I don't know.
Maybe you can just give the error message to ChatGPT.
Yeah. That'd be a nice interface, like a nice, I say, go between that translates all the problems and errors. I mean, that's total non sequitur, but like, I really love also how in ChatGPT, not only does it just give you the code, but it tells you what it's doing in plain English. So that makes it pretty helpful.
I think it's a great learning tool for programming.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit faster than Googling things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have about 10 more minutes. Anybody have any other DevOps related questions? Terraform, Kubernetes, AWS?
I got a question.
What is DevOps?
Yeah, let's not go there. Hey Charles, what was that?
I'm curious what people are using for visibility into like vulnerability management. We're going down the EKS route, and I've looked into AWS Inspector and Security Hub, and it looks like it works about this far, and it seemed to have a lot of holes. One thing I seem to be having a fair bit of success with, I think it's pretty new, the Trivy operator seems to be, they've taken Starboard, which used to be an operator, and they're basically Starboard is becoming Trivy operator, and the idea is it's an operator you put in the cluster. Yeah, exactly. That scans all of your replica sets, stateful sets, daemon sets, anything that's currently deployed in your cluster, and then creates a CRD vulnerability report on it. And it's cool because they have a TTL of like, you can set it 24 hours and it'll rescan. And if you remove the deployment, it cleans up that CRD and it's gone, kind of thing. So the wins for me over Inspector is it's actually what's running. Like I found out that my AWS CNI plugin was way out of date because, of course, Inspector wasn't scanning that. It was only scanning stuff in ECR. So I'm wondering what other people's experience. What I'm looking at doing is, taking this, writing some little Python script I can put in a cron in the cluster to sync it up to Security Hub so that I have the findings somewhere. Because, I mean, the problem with this for me is it's only in the cluster and it's kind of temporary, right? And it sounds like there's some decent Security Hub integration to something like Jira to escalate a ticket if there's critical vulnerabilities, that kind of thing. But I'm wondering what other people do to keep an eye on this.
And maybe it's already supported?
Yeah, sort of. So this is the Trivy CLI, and they've got some sort of baked in templates that'll do it for you. I sort of followed this along. And the idea is that I'm just going to make it a bit more configurable. There's a lot of terminology issues here because there's Trivy the CLI, and then there's Trivy operator, and it does an AWS posture scan as well as it does vulnerability scanning, and it can scan your cluster. So I don't know what do other people, there's also, of course, cloud native security offerings from Aqua and SNCC, but I mean the prices on them are through the
Yeah.
roof, right?
We don't help on this side of the house at Cloud Posse, but I will say that Sneak comes up the most often when I hear what customers end up going with, and yeah, it's pricey.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The idea is with everything cloud native, the updating is going to be a lot more automatic, but you still need to prove to your auditors that it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you already invested also in Security Hub, you don't want yet a separate system that doesn't integrate it. You want it to all kind of roll up under Security Hub, and then if you have that integrated with Audit Manager, so you can have the artifacts over there. So I don't know, the approach seems sound to me, but yeah, we haven't unfortunately been able to solve that end to end.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Any other questions? We got another few minutes here. All right. Well, we can end a little bit early. I wouldn't mind taking a cup of coffee here. Thanks everyone for participating in our office hours this week. We're going to post a recording of today's session to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't yet subscribed, just go to youtube.com/cloudposse to subscribe. If you want to connect with me, lots of ways to do that. Go to linkedin.com/in/Osterman and add me, or book a session with me by going to cloudposse.com/quiz. We'll go through your current situation and see if Cloud Posse is a good fit for the problems you need solved. If you haven't yet registered for our weekly office hours, go to cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. You'll get an invite. We host these calls every week. We've been doing it for a few years, haven't missed a single one. So with that said, everyone, have a great rest of your week and talk to you next week.